Classic children's books were going to be stripped of offensive words such as fat and ugly, but finally we had a win in here. Roald Dahl books will be published in classic form following editing controversy. This news is a response to the publisher's earlier decision to change language within Dahl's books currently in circulation in the UK, which include Matilda and James and the Giant Peach. The author language was first reported by the Daily Telegraph on February 17. Words like fat, ugly, and crazy, and by the way, greedy, were edited out, and language related to gender, weight, appearance, and more was altered. Text at the bottom of the copyright page of the books explain the changes. Words matter. The wonderful words of Roald Dahl can transport you to different worlds and introduce you to the most marvelous characters. This book was written many years ago, and so we regularly review the language to ensure that it can continue to be enjoyed by all today. That sounds like we are going to censor it so nobody gets triggered today. Following widespread backlash from readers, literary minds, and the Queen consort herself, Penguin Random House will republish 17 of Dahl's unedited titles later this year as part of the Roald Dahl Classic Collection. The other, altered versions put out by Puffin Books, the children's imprint of Penguin Random House, will also remain in circulation. Now, I want to point out the actual changes that they were doing to these books. The changes to the beloved classics touch on weight, mental health, gender, race, and ethnicity. You can imagine that this is so nobody gets offended by words like fat and ugly. And I'm going to tell you what is my real problem with the words fat and ugly. The word fat was eliminated. In Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, antagonist Augustus Gloop became enormous instead of enormously fat. There were also changes in professional descriptions. In The Witches, women characters are now top scientists and business owners rather than a cashier in a supermarket because, I guess in this era, there are no more women that are cashier in supermarkets or men that are cashier in supermarkets. They no longer exist, right? Or somehow being a cashier at a supermarket is something to be ashamed of, I guess. Tweaks related to gender abounded. Mothers and fathers were switched to family. This is like a Fast and Furious movie. Ladies and gentlemen became folks. Boys and girls became children. Well, I don't have that much a problem with that because, boys and girls are children, right? But you know what is this about. And in James and the Giant Peach, gender-neutral terms were adopted, with Cloud Man becoming Cloud People. All right. I guess that it will be like Sam Smith. He wants to be a Fisher People. Colors were changed too. The worm in James and the Giant Peach no longer has lovely pink skin, but lovely smooth skin. What is the problem with pink? I love pink. Mrs. Spider's head isn't described as being black. And what other colors? Spiders are black. These people are insane. Dahl's work has been altered in the past. One of the author's most well-known works, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, would they change chocolate for deeming it too racist? Originally depicted the Oompa Loompas as African pygmy people. Their appearances were altered in the 1971 movie, then changed in the book. Well, to be fair, I really like the 1971 movie. That aesthetic of the general movie and the Oompa Loompas was very fun to watch. So that's a win, I guess. I'm going to tell you what is my problem with these changes. I'm going to start with the words fat and ugly. And to explain my point about fat and ugly, I'm going to mention another term that was not in these changes, had nothing to do with Roald Dahl's books, I guess. But I want to talk about the term idiot. Just in case you're not aware, idiot used to be a technical term, a scientific term in legal and psychiatric contexts for some kinds of profound intellectual disability. Okay? Where the mental age is 2 years or less and the person cannot guard themselves against common physical dangers. The term was gradually replaced by profound mental retardation, a word that, well, you know what happened to that word too, which has since been replaced by other terms, along with terms like moron, imbecile, and retard. What happened with terms like idiot that were scientific terms at first? That people, the general public, began using them as insults. They were technical terms, such as retard was a technical term. Since it was used as insults, then it had to be changed for another term, and so on and so on and so on and so on. That hasn't stopped in 100 years. I guess at some point, the intellectual disability, which in fact the term intellectual disability or being disabled implies that you cannot do anything. You are disabled. If you had limitations or you were, yes, if you had limitations, at least you can work them out. But no, if you are disabled, it's that you don't have it whatsoever, which is really hurting. That term is going to be replaced at some point. So what is the problem with the terms fat and ugly? I'm sure that nobody likes to be called fat, and I'm sure that nobody likes to be called ugly. When you think about it, the terms fat and ugly are just adjectives. They are still in the dictionary. They have not been completely banned from the language, and we can still use them because they describe a state or a characteristic of someone that helps us describe other people. Sometimes people call others that kind of words because they want to trigger them or they want to insult them. And if someone wants to insult us or want to be aggressive verbally with us, that is something that we cannot control. We cannot control if they want to trigger us in some way. Sometimes a person can call you fat or ugly or idiot, and you could be absolutely sure that you are neither of those terms, but every single one of us is insecure in some way. And this kind of words can, yes, they can trigger insecurities in us. But here's the magic thing. No matter what is the word that other person is using to try to trigger you or provoke you, you cannot control them saying the word, but you can control the way you react to that word, to that insult. That is something that you can do. And if you feel insecure, you feel threatened, you feel insulted, there's something that you can control. Your reaction is absolutely part of your thoughts and actions. So you are the master of those circumstances. That is something that you can work on. And that is something that we can understand about our emotions. If I don't see any problem with being called fat, then why do I get triggered when I get called fat? Then there must be something inside me that is getting hooked into that insult. Or for some reason, this person's words, this person's opinion matter to me in a way that triggers my emotions. Why is that? It shouldn't be that way. But everything that is happening is inside us. That reaction and our eventual reaction or non-reaction, we can control that. I can understand that not everybody has the emotional tools to be able to process that kind of insults. And if those insults are too repeatedly with too much frequency over time and much more hurtful, they can actually harm a person's mental health, but not the eventual mention of the word fat or ugly on a children's book. That is insane. That is thinking that a child doesn't have the emotional tools to understand the nuances and the context of what is happening in the book. So yes, I made a clickbait title. I don't have any problem with the words fat and ugly. I have a problem with the people that try to insult you and how we overreact to something that is happening outside of us and the opinion of people that maybe we don't care about them, then why should we care about their opinion? We should care about our emotions. Why are we triggered? We have to find out that, and that way we will be able to know much more and know ourselves better. Either way, I would like to know what do you think about this in the comments. If you like this kind of topics and want to support me on my journey fighting the insanity of the world, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell.